when you put more than just cash into a deal, you have so much more to offer your community, your friends, your family, your peers. You know what I mean? Like you have so much more to give because it's that passion. You're backing your investment with passion. It's like everything else around you is going to grow and thrive off your energy level, man. If you have,
Yeah, I'll show you how to get it, but you have to be willing to do the work. The Syndicate, it's a motherfucking movement.
You ain't gotta be perfect, as long as you down to put the work in. If when it comes to the bullshit you allergic, well, you just might be my kind of person. Welcome to the Syndicate, where real estate wholesaling is what the business is. Ain't gotta talk about it when you out here living it. So if you out here getting it, then welcome to the Syndicate. Welcome to the Syndicate. Welcome to the Syndicate.
All right, guys, so you're listening to another episode of the Wholesaling Syndicate Podcast. I'm your host, Ky Logue. Today, I'm very excited for our guest to share some knowledge with us and to dive into his story and get you guys some good takeaways. We got my friend, Michael DiFazio. Michael, thank you so much for joining us today, man.
thanks for having me, man. This is going to be pretty fun.
Yeah, no, I'm excited, man. Yeah, happy we finally able to get this booked again, and yeah, let's rock and roll. So for people who don't know you yet, or may not know you yet, do you want to give us a quick intro and on who you are?
Sure, man. Yeah. So my name is Michael DiFazio. I've been a furniture builder for 13 years this year. Started when I was fresh out of high school, building furniture out of necessity to, I guess, afford to be able to go on tour with my band at the time. Over the years, I moved to a neighborhood that was kind of known as the ghetto. I ended up buying my building. Was one of the first people down here to really start making investments in the neighborhood. Bought my building, then I bought the lot next door. Then I bought two houses, did a very creative vendor take-back deal, got two properties, ended up with the one with no cash in it. And over the years, I've done 9 different deals on the same block. I've been very involved in the neighborhood down here. The neighborhood's called Ford City in Windsor, Ontario, Canada, for those of you guys who don't know. But yeah, the whole neighborhood since then, when I first moved here, I always said that it was going to take at least 10 years for this thing to kind of pop off. And I'm at 10 years in this neighborhood right now. And it's definitely gone up enormously in value because when I bought this building for that we're in right now, good luck ever finding anything this cheap again. But yeah, the neighborhood has 7x'd in actual value since I moved here. So it's pretty interesting to see that. So the neighborhood's coming alive again. There's lots of businesses moving in, lots of people trying to live here again. It's awesome to see it.
I love that, man. That's awesome. So what made you decide on that neighborhood?
So I grew up in this neighborhood actually, and this was a neighborhood that we weren't supposed to come down, right? Like my friends' parents didn't want their kids coming down to hang out with me because I lived in this area. It was gnarly down here. But there was always like this fascination, right? Like don't go hang out on Drouillard. It's like, it's scary and there's bad things that happen down there. So me being young and on my bike, being in high school, this is the only place we wanted to come down. It was like, you tell us not to go down there. That's the only place we actually want to go. We want to go check it out and see why we're not supposed to be down there. So I was always intrigued with it. I love architecture. I love the buildings that are in this neighborhood. It's like one of the last neighborhoods in our city that is close, right? Like the street in between the 2 blocks is not very big. So it's a nice, tight, walkable community. And I fell in love with the whole vibe. And my mom still lived down here. So when I moved out of my Nono's garage into a much bigger shop for my furniture company, this was the first place I looked, and it was the first place I fell in love with.
I love that, man. That's awesome. So what's it like investing? I guess so. What are the main differences, or what are the differences that you know of, I guess, like between investing in Canada and investing in the US?
Okay, so that's a big one. So I don't know too much about investing in the US, but I can say that there's tons of advice that I learn about that is only for the States. There's a lot of stuff in Canada that is different. So our capital gains is different. Like you guys have, what is it, 1031?
1031 exchange.
Yeah. Yeah. Where you guys can roll it in. Like we don't even have that up here. So you get capital gains on everything.
Wow.
So yeah, that's one thing. And the other thing, I mean, there's just like in the States, there's different. There's like the red and blue in Canada. There's red and blue in the States too, like states or provinces. Like we got provinces up here. So there's other provinces that have different landlord tenant rules and stuff like that. Where I'm at in Ontario is not the best, really. In Canada, I don't know if it's one of the better ones, but compared to what a lot of the stuff that you guys have to deal with down in the States, that's a whole different ball game. So up here where I'm at, the tenants have most of the rights. It's a very different ball game. The last tenant I had a problem with up here, it was 11 months to get him out.
Wow.
And it cost me about $13,000 to get him out after all the damages and everything he did. So
Damn.
I'll never see that.
Sure, that's a tough fucking pill to swallow, man. But do you want to kind of run us through that story or what happened with that tenant?
Yeah, man. So like, I mean, I get this all the time, right? Everyone's like, "Oh, you must have all these horror stories." I've got 13 doors down here. Like I currently have 5 buildings. I've had probably 22 different tenants, people moving out, moving back in the same units, kind of thing. But like I've only had one bad experience. Like I've only had one person that was garbage. Like not just crappy person. The guy was going
Mhm.
through a lot too. Sure, like drugs, messy, hoarder, dogs in the house. Like it was a mess. And I bought the building. So it's a 10-unit building in the same neighborhood that I'm in. And I bought this building, super stoked on the building. It's one of the kind of cornerstones of our neighborhood down here. And I assumed this tenant from the guy that I bought it off of. And so he had a deal with the landlord that I bought it off of when things got tough, kind of thing. He didn't have to pay rent and everything. So I kind of had to assume some of the problems when I bought the building. But
Oh yeah.
this guy paid rent one time, and then I didn't get rent again from him after that. He had dogs in there. He was letting the dogs go to the bathroom like in the apartment so much that like it was leaking through into the basement. It's terrible. It was a mess. Hoarder, drugs, and all that stuff. The guy, poor guy, honestly, but um, yeah, he knew the rule book, man. And our rule book down here is very favored for the tenant, down to like when I say it took 11 months, it was like there's a period of time where the tenant has to pay the rent, right? So I think it's like 2 weeks. So you can be 2 weeks late and you couldn't even take it to court. But if you don't serve him the N4, which is like paperwork, I don't know if you guys have something similar down there. But if you don't serve them that notice right away on day one, or like on the
Mhm.
second of the month, you'll push it back months and months and months, like your court date. So went through the entire court system. That took, I think, 8 months to get into the system. No, sorry, it might have been like 7 months to get into the system. And then he goes to court, and then the judge says, you have 2 months to pay this. So I'm like, okay, 2 months goes by. He hasn't paid anything now for, however many months it was. And then after that, he still doesn't pay. And then the sheriff comes, and then when the sheriff comes, he still has another week. And then after that week, the locks get changed. And then he has another 3 days to collect his belongings. And then after that 3 days, you have another 24 hours to let him in to collect his things. And that guy played the rule book to the very last hour
Wow.
of that. So I mean, like he turned his eviction into a full-time job for himself. Like at the end of the day, I know with the appreciation in the neighborhood and everything like that, I'm still gonna make out all right. But like it makes me wonder, like, why did that guy put that much time and energy into playing the game all the way to the very end when he could have just put that time and energy into something else?
Right. Yeah, I feel like people don't have much else going on and they just it's easy to go all in on their own things. But man, that's wild, man. Sorry it took so long but happy you're able to move on and get him out of there.
Yeah, so after all the lost rent, the damages, because he completely trashed that place. It was the most disgusting unit I've ever seen. Like dog poo everywhere, it was not nice. After all that, the damages, the lawyer fees, the lost rent, all that combined came up to like $13,000. So it was a
Man.
mess. A lot.
Yeah. That's not fun at all, man. So going back to kind of the differences in states, do you guys have like wholesalers up there? Do you, or is there anybody that does like wholesaling in Canada?
Yeah, like wholesaling still exists up here. I've never actually had to deal with it before. Like I've never bought anything that was being wholesaled, but I know I have friends that are agents and investors that do wholesaling up here. Um, it's a pretty cool thing, man. Like it's something that I've always thought about doing, but I got so much going on with the business and everything. It's just something that always takes the back burner, and maybe I'll get around to it one day. Um, but yeah, it definitely does exist up here.
Awesome. Yeah. And I thought I heard someone say you couldn't do it up there, but I hear that about here in the States all the time. People say the same thing. So it's like, yeah, I feel like most people just hear something and they repeat it and don't know if it's really true or not. But that's cool. No, yeah, it is. There is wholesalers up there and people getting deals from wholesalers. Are you guys like, do you guys do like a lot of, are you able to do like a lot of the creative stuff like subject to or like seller financing? Is it all that up there too?
Yeah, so I mean, that's been my jam up here, man. So being a furniture builder, I'm not bringing in like stupid amounts of money. And when I first started my business, like I was in my sorry, when I first moved here, I was 24 years old. So when I went to go buy this building as my first building, I did go through the bank, and I had to give them my books. And one of the years of my business, like for my financials, there was only a $7,000 top line on it, right? Like I was super fresh. I was like, here's my books, like sell me this building or lend me money for this building. They actually ended up doing it. And but that was like that was the only thing that I've done that was, very much like go to the bank with a down payment and buy a property. Everything else I've done down here, very creative. I love the creative game, super fun. Um, I've done, I think, 4 VTBs on this block. I've bought 2 properties with zero cash in. Um, and I've done a few refinance deals, pulled equity out, moved it over here to renovate these buildings. Because being in this neighborhood, everything in this neighborhood needs a ton of renovation. So it's not like you just slap some paint on the walls and put some new flooring in and call it a day. It's like HVAC, electrical right from the pole, sewer right from the sewer main, right? Like you're building new buildings.
Mm.
So one second here. Where'd you go? Yeah, so the VTBs, like I can go over some of the deals if you wanted. That's what you
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
go over.
Let's break them down. Yeah, I'd love to hear. I don't even know what a VTB is. So yeah, if you could break down what that is for myself and the audience, and yeah, that'd be super cool.
Maybe you guys just have a different name for it. So it's like we call it vendor take back, VTB. It's essentially the current owner sells you the property at, like, he holds the mortgage, he becomes the bank. You guys have a different that down there?
Yeah, usually like seller financing, or like yeah, usually just creative. Yeah, it kind of falls under the creative umbrella, but yeah, I usually just call it like seller financing or owner financing.
Nice. Okay, yeah. So I have a single family home right next door to my shop, and that owner owned another single family home. I don't know, maybe 6 lots down or something like that, like 2-minute walk down the street. And I worked out a deal with him to hold the mortgage for both the properties. I needed the one because it was next to my shop, because I'm very much interested in owning like what's next to my buildings, right? Because it gives me so much more opportunity in the future to be, I can develop this property, which is actually my plan. So I bought this house. I bought the 2 houses off this guy. He did a VTB on both, a vendor take back on both. I got somebody to lend me the down payment for the one house, and then I went in on a 50-50 with a joint venture with one of my buddies on the other house. I brought the deal, he put the money in. So the current landlord, or the current landowner, the house, he gave us both the properties. He held the mortgage for those. And then the whole plan with the other house, the one that I didn't plan on keeping, was to flip it. So we put it on the market right away. Didn't really do anything much to the house. I knew the values of the properties in this neighborhood specifically were shooting through the roof. So we bought it. We cleaned up the sidewalk and trimmed the trees and listed it. We made a pretty good profit off. I think we made 80 grand in like a month. We just flipped it for very quick, very easy. And so he took 50% of the profit. I took the other 50% of the profit. And then I used that profit to then pay out the lender for the house that I wanted to keep. So then I had no money in the house that I wanted to keep. And I actually ended up moving into that house, and I lived in there for about 2 years just because it was next to my shop, super easy to get to work. But it was one of those things that, like, when the whole plan was completed, I had zero cash invested into that house.
Nice. Yeah, that's killer, man. That's the best way to do it for sure. If you have to come out of pocket. So with the VTB, so did he still have like an existing loan on the property, or was it were those properties paid off?
No, so this is where I don't know. I don't know if we're able to do that with a loan. I haven't dealt with it yet. But this guy specifically, I mean, like, you got to think, man, like, this neighborhood back in the day was like, you could buy, he probably bought that house for 20 grand, and like, these property taxes here next to nothing. So the houses were bought and paid off. He owned them for like 30 years. But yeah, he was free and clear for sure.
Nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, yes, it sounds, pretty much like seller financing. It's a different term or different word for it. It's awesome, man. Yeah, that's super cool. So yeah, I love that, man. So how have you found these deals up there?
So when I moved to this neighborhood, I was kind of one of the only guys down here, right? There was a couple people that helped bring me into the neighborhood. They were working at, developing the neighborhood. There was city programs here trying to bring more business in and whatnot. And when I moved down here, people tell me that, like, they call me the mayor of Drouillard. I'm like, not a chance. Like, I tell people that I wasn't the first person to come down here and start investing down here. I was just the loud Italian guy yelling from the top of my building, like, are you guys sleeping on this neighborhood? Because I was trying to get it to grow. And I saw so much potential down here. I loved it. I lived down here. I worked down here, and I was investing down here. So my entire life was spent down here. So when these old guys that would come do maintenance on their properties, they would see us. They saw me running my business here. I was a familiar face. And, me being the young and ambitious man that I would just walk up to him and be like, hey, if you're ever interested in this, here's my number. Here's my card. Write down your number. And multiple times I've had literally people in the middle of the street walk up to me and say, hey, I want you to buy my building. Or I've actually had 2 doors down from my house that I was just telling you about. It was in the middle of COVID. And this was a building that was known to be very rough. And I mentioned it a couple of times, like, hey, if you're ever interested in selling this, let me know. And it was always, oh, we're not selling. So by the time COVID was around, spending a lot of time just sitting on my porch hanging out, because we were locked down for 2 years up here, which is insane.
Wow.
Yeah, dude, we got smoked with COVID. Makes me want to move to America with you guys.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. That's a long fucking time.
Yeah, it's stupid, man. Stupid. So I was sitting on my porch one day, and the guy literally walked up to me, and I met him on the sidewalk, whatever. He's like, $250,000. I hold the mortgage. You give me $50,000 for the down payment. And I was like, okay, fuck, that sounds perfect. I had funds lying around, like just profits from the shop, whatever. I was just able to pull the funds from that and roll it right into the building. It was a mixed use commercial. So this whole neighborhood down here is mixed use residential commercial. It was kind of like a downtown of a small town that eventually got amalgamated into the city that we're in, Windsor. So this had like its own city hall down here. This was a downtown core of a small town, essentially. So apartments above the commercial units, and that's just my jam. I love that stuff. So we started getting into gutting it because the whole place needed to be gutted. Everyone is always telling me the building's in terrible, terrible shape, and I'm start gutting it. I get through the one unit. I'm like, the bones are great here. Like, this is a perfect building to just start ripping out. So we just keep going. And then all of a sudden we started uncovering all the bad parts. That building there's nothing left. The foundation's completely gone. The brick walls are completely gone. The roof is caving in. The structure is gone. I'm out because, like, this is way too much of a project. Like, I'm not trying to work on this for the rest of my life kind of thing. I just want to, I want these buildings active so that more buildings can move down here, more businesses can move down here. boosting the appreciation of the neighborhood, making it more attractive down here, cleaning up some of these ghetto buildings. So I ended up just gutting the entire building because I was going to finish the building, even though I started following stuff, finding new stuff. I was like, this project's getting bigger and bigger by the day. I'm just going to keep going to see what I can do. So I ended up just gutting the building. And in 11 months, I ended up just selling it. I had the architectural plans. I had everything drawn out, worked with the engineers, the architects. Everything was pretty much ready to go to permits or to pull permits. All you had to do was essentially buy the building and then go to the city and pull the permit, and you'd be ready to go start construction on it. And I found a buyer. Again, no real estate agent or anything like that. And I sold the building for 490, 11 months after, and all we did was gut it. So I sold them essentially a blank shell, which I've learned is so much nicer to buy when you're buying these types of buildings because you can actually see the problems.
Right.
It's like I said, it's not like putting paint and new flooring down. It's like you're like do everything.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome, man. I love that. So what did the people that bought it, they end up doing anything yet with it, or are they still working on
it? They bought it and now they're just sitting on it. So I'm not too sure what the actual plan is for them right now. But they're just, sorry, I should have plugged the computer in. I'm not sure what their plan is right now with the property. It's been sitting there. I kind of wish it was further along or, someone actually cared about it. Yeah. Now I kind of feel like we're in a little bit of a bind now because we had one guy down here who ended up buying, I don't even know how many. I think he's got 11 properties on the same block as me. So now he's got them all locked up again. So the buildings were able to be bought from the negligent landlords that were just keeping them as depreciating assets on their balance sheet, which was working against their tax return, to somebody that actually had intention to finish the buildings and then wasn't able to actually finish the building. So now we're sitting at the same point. But right now, that's actually one of the things we're dealing with right now. Like we've got all these buildings that have been bought by this guy, and now we're back, not at square one, but we're still in that holding phase where we're waiting for people to be able to finish the building so more businesses can move in. But I keep telling, because I've been very involved in the neighborhood down here, being involved in like the business association, like the BIA, which is the Business Improvement Association for our neighborhood. So I've been very involved, lots of volunteer work, lots of forced appreciation plans, I guess. And if his whole house of cards with all these buildings falls apart, that means they're going to be back on the market. It means that new people are going to be able to come in and buy them. If he gets the financing and all the fun and all the construction happens and it's all good, then the businesses can move in. It's still progress. So I'm looking at this with a very hopeful sight, I guess, because I'm hoping that no matter what happens, it's still progress. Because I actually believe that.
Yeah, I love that, man. So, man, I love what you're doing, man. That's super cool. It's a neighborhood you grew up in, and you're helping revitalize it. If there's someone listening, they want to do the same thing. Yeah, they have their local community and they want to help build it up. What are some of the things that you've done, or what are some of the things they can do to help, impact growth or get other people to want to, help, with the cause and help fix that community up?
So, damn, that's a good question. So the thing that I did, right, when I moved here, it was to find a space for my business to grow. And then I ended up I was actually looking specifically for a place where I could live and work. These old neighborhoods are built for that, right? I had an apartment above my shop. I lived in that apartment, fixed it up, and then ran my shop. So if you have a business or you're looking to start a small business, go all in, man. Find a way to live where you work and then build that up. It's only for a few years, and then you're going to be left with something so special and raw, kind of close to your heart, not so much just an investment, right? So I think I always have an issue with people that say don't fall in love with the deal, right? Because in my opinion, when you put more than just cash into a deal, you have so much more to offer your community, your friends, your family, your peers. You know what I mean? Like you have so much more to give because it's that passion. You're backing your investment with passion. It's like everything else around you is going to grow and thrive off your energy level, man. If you're in there, say you're out, you say, I mean, not to say anything bad about out of town investors, but like an out of town investor is just putting his capital somewhere.
Mm.
I, I've had a hard time hearing that because like you're dealing with neighborhoods, right? Like you're dealing with people that actually live and work in these neighborhoods. Like give a little bit more to it. Like get involved in the community, get involved in the initiatives that are happening in the neighborhood, right? Because forcing appreciation could be in a traditional sense, you know, doing a new kitchen, doing a new bathroom, but doing forced appreciation on the scale that I'm doing it is like build the community, get your friend to buy the building across the street, get that one fixed up. If a business starts asking for space, you know, maybe walk them down the road and say, you could buy this one, you could buy that one, right? Like give them more of your time because the other thing is all my eggs are in this one basket. Like I've got to protect the basket now. It's not don't put your eggs in one basket. It's in my opinion, I say put all your eggs in one basket and protect that basket. Like get involved in that basket because one thing that I do to benefit one of those eggs in that basket will also benefit the other egg in the basket. All of my buildings are like, I don't know, 50, maybe 100 feet away from each other. Like they're very close. I got 5 buildings I could throw a rock at, you know, like right in front of me here. So if I increase the facade of this building, that building goes up in value. If I get higher rents in that building, the rents in this building go up, right? So I'm forcing appreciation in an entire neighborhood now instead of just forcing appreciation in one building and then off to the next neighborhood. Because I'm here, I care. I'm like, I spend more time in this neighborhood than anybody I know because I work, live, and invest here. This was my life for a very long time, and it's been 10 years since I've been here.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's super cool. I think that's a great strategy, and it makes a lot of sense the way you're explaining it. So, have you found that like have any like the deals you've gotten or any of the sellers have they been more open to have they preferred selling to you rather than those out of state investors or other people knowing how much you care about the community and what you've done? If you feel like that's helped you?
100%. Because it's people, man. Like you're at the end of the day, you're dealing with people. You're not dealing with just the numbers. Like just the numbers work sometimes. But when you're talking about like the community that you actually care about, it's not the same deal. You're not doing the same deal. The math is a little bit, I guess, skewed because there's emotion involved. And that can go both ways, right? Like that can shoot you in the foot or it can be the best thing ever to happen in your life. To be honest, actually every single deal down here is because they knew who I was. And like I've been offered things that are like crazy low prices because they know that I have good intentions. Like I'm thinking about selling the 10-plex that I've got down the street right now. And it's like, I will not sell this to somebody that has intentions to put a Taco Bell in there, you know, or like, you know, some sort of corporate sludge corporation where they're just going to come in and just plop the same thing that's down the street. I'm not interested in doing that. And that will also hurt all the progress that we're making in the neighborhood because, again, going back to that basket analogy, that's not going to improve the value of our neighborhood anymore. This is just going to be a good cash flowing asset for some guy who lives 4 hours away from here. You know, like I don't want to sell to that guy. So when I bought the 10-plex, it was the 10-unit building and 2 doors down, it was a single commercial unit. And he offered me another VTB to buy both of those units too. And he came to me with a deal that was pretty easy. You know, it was like, hey, I'm going to hold both the mortgages on these 2 properties. You just give me X amount of money and I'll hold the mortgage for 2 years, whatever. So I was like, okay, I liked it, but I knew that there was so much more that I could do for him. So what I ended up doing, and like he's a friend of mine, like he was on the BIA with me for years. He just passed away actually, but he he liked who I was. We butt heads all the time, right? Like we were neighbors. We weren't like best friends hanging out. We were neighbors. We cared about the same community. So he offered me and only me the building, the two buildings. Sorry, he offered me, like I said, in a VTB, and I ended up going to the bank and saying to the bank, "Hey, I'm being offered these two buildings for, I think I needed to give him 350 grand cash for the down payment." And I was like, I know this isn't going to benefit him as much as it possibly could. So I ended up going to the bank and like paying for the entire 10plex with that 350. And then he held the mortgage on the other building with no money in it. So I got a building with I just traditional financing on the 10plex. It was already cash flowing. And then he held the mortgage on the other building that I would have never been able to get a mortgage on because it was in such bad shape. And then I was able to use the rest of my capital to actually fix the building up. Because without that, I would have been left with a decaying building. You know, the building needed, I had to put 150 grand into that building just to get it rentable. And so I was able to buy the property that was cash flowing, fix the other one up, get that tenant in there, and then refinance that one, and then pull the equity out of that so I can then put that money back into the 10plex. So I'm moving cash all over the place now, and it's allowed me to get, I have zero money in that deal again. So now I'm left with a property. It's like that if I sell it, I'm starting at, I got profit like very, very quick. I don't have to pay off a ton of debt with that property now. I got no money into it. So I can sell that one and then even knock down the debt or anything else that I've got that is leverage against the 10 unit. So now I got a good building and a building that I got cash free. So, or with no cash in it. So that was all put together with my buddy or my neighbor, let's call him my neighbor, but it was all put together very creatively with him. And that deal took, I don't even know, 9 months to close because he was so extra thorough. And my lawyer was even like, what is this guy doing playing lawyer?
Yeah.
But
perfect, man. So yeah, man, I love that. I think that's great. That's super cool. What you're dealing with your community, man. I think that's badass. Any other advice you'd have for someone that's just starting out or wants to get into real estate investing, but doesn't really know how to start or they're afraid to take that leap?
I guess the one thing that I would say, because of like the struggle that I've had with it, because of my business being self-employed, like the banks up here anyways, they see us as higher risk. Somehow my employees are less risk than I am, which makes no sense to me. But being in that position where you are seen as high risk to traditional banks, don't let it stop there. There are so many different ways you can get creative. I mean, I've told you a couple of them. There's a lot of the little details in those deals that I've worked on. And I mean, if anybody has questions, like I can always help them out. But you're not limited to just what the bank's going to offer you. You know what I mean? There's so many ways in real estate to create win-win situations for everybody involved, from tenant to real estate agent to buyer and seller. There's a way for everybody involved to have a win. Somebody doesn't have to lose in a real estate deal. And I think understanding is a very good start getting creative, right? Because you can offer things on the back end, you can offer things on the front end, you can do work out deals where there's VTBs or loans, like a cashback mortgage where you're able to, on closing, you release the seller releases a loan, so like part of their profits come back to you in the form of a loan. Then you can use those funds to then renovate the property, right? Because some of these properties need tons of work. Like there's so many different ways to get creative. I haven't done that one yet, actually.
Yeah, it sounds cool. Yeah, I was going to ask more about that because I haven't heard of that.
Cashback mortgage. Yeah, I haven't done one. I've heard they're super cool though, because essentially it's like, hey, you find that the roof needs to be redone on the building that you're buying, but you don't have the funds for that. So say the guy wants 500 grand for this building, you say, and the roof's going to cost 100 grand. you buy the building for 600 grand, and on closing, 100 grand gets wired back to you in the form of a loan. So
Mm,
then you get to use the extra profits from the sale, and the bank will mortgage the 100 grand. You use that 100 grand to then throw it onto the roof of the building, and now you're good.
nice. That's super cool.
So there's so many ways to get creative. It's like there's no end. And you're talking about wholesaling too. Like I've never done it. I have friends that have done it. That's like got started in it. They
Mhm.
started in investing.
Yeah, typically I'd say the progression path here too is, a lot of people get into wholesaling, they learn how to find deals, identify deals, start to build up their capital. Then yeah, you can transition into actually being an investor and build long-term wealth.
That's where I want to get next, man. I was just running numbers today actually on what I would need to get to cash out of those two buildings. I was just talking about the 10plex and the single commercial, just to see where I would be at capital wise to eventually just go into a cash investing point. And I don't know where people usually get at with that. All I know is that like in my life right now, I really want to focus on my shop and growing my shop and my personal
Mhm.
brand and everything. Well, being part of Apex, that's actually what I want to focus on. So I was looking at that just to see where I would end up, but I don't know if I'm there yet because I don't really know how much I should have before that actually starts making me any sort of decent return.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's the tough thing about being an entrepreneur, investor is like there's so many things to do, but you got to get focused on whatever the best thing is for now because it's real easy to try to do all the things and not do any of them well.
Yep. Oh, I know that. That's such a accurate. Like that's exactly what I'm dealing with all the time, man. Because I think I have ADD. I'm all over the place
Yeah,
sometimes.
me too. Yeah, I think a lot of entrepreneurs do. I think it's a common trait, ADD and just shiny object syndrome and want the new hot thing. But usually the best decision I've found is just doing the boring shit that you're good at and just keep doing it.
Yeah, true. True. One thing, talking about Apex quick, I was listening to Stewman's 21 rules of money, or I don't know
Hmm.
exactly what it is, the 20 rules that he has around money. The one thing that he said there has been burning a hole in my heart, man. So I'm a very handy man, right? Like I run a furniture shop. Like we build stuff. Like we're constantly working through problems in furniture design and woods and things like that. So I'm handy, and I've always been handy. And what happens with these buildings, I just get stuck working in them. It's like, I gotta take down these 5 boards. Do I call a demo company to take down 5 boards? No, I'm just gonna go get my drill and I'm gonna go take the boards down. And then next thing you know, I've been there for 7 hours and I'm still
Hmm.
working on the building and I got nothing done. And I already and I maybe I hurt my hand a little bit or something. It drives me nuts. So going back to that 21 rules of money, he talks about not working for the same dollar twice.
Mm.
And I was like, damn it, he's got me right there. I was like, that hurt because I've been putting so much like blood, sweat, and tears into these buildings, man. I'm like, I need to stop doing this. And I feel like at the point in my life where I'm at right now, I mean, I've been doing this, I've been investing. What's my 10th year? I've been 10 years in this neighborhood. So I've been investing in this neighborhood for 10 years. And I feel like I needed to feel a little bit of a burn with this building because this has been that 10plex is a huge project, man.
Yeah.
I feel like I needed to feel a little bit of the burn for it to hurt enough for me to be like, I'm never doing this way again.
Mm.
I still have all the intentions, buy real estate, grow a great cash flowing portfolio, have tons of assets. Like I want that, but doing it the way that I'm doing it it's killing me because I'm working for the same dollar twice. Like I bust my ass in the shop to make enough profit to go buy buildings. That's great. And then I'm working all day long after work in the shop, going over to the buildings again and putting in more work just to make the same dollar again. And I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
So
I
I
feel
don't know if
that,
you
man.
if you ever deal with that.
Yeah, yeah, all the time with all the things. I'm like, a lot of times like I'll do it. It's a bit easier to do it myself, or I can learn things pretty fast, and and then it's yeah, we had one. So I'm completely redoing the site, the Wholesaling Syndicate site. We just did our event back in February and a couple weeks ago, And so did the event. I'm like, oh, I'll do it myself. And like the video guy got it back, so I'll do some editing. I'm like, whatever, I'll just do it myself instead of hiring someone again to do the same job twice. And yeah, it's been like the last I guess almost 3 weeks now of my life. It's like all I've been doing. I thought I should just hired someone. And then I went on because I'm rebuilding a Discord for the wholesaling syndicate, building the community. And I was doing it myself before, trying to learn it. I'm like, yeah, I'm learning it, but it's like taking up all my time. And then I went on Fiverr.com and it's like fucking $50, dude. And this dude, his experience knows how to do it. He's going to bang it out in a day. I'm like, why did I just do that to begin with?
Insane, right? So I just hired a new guy here to work with us in the shop, and he was a framer before he came here. I didn't think a framer would be great at fine furniture building, to be honest, but the dude surprised me. And I'm like, hey, you're a framer. I got a bunch of framing to do in this building. Do you mind helping me out this weekend? And that guy moved so fast in framing, and I thought I was good at framing. And this guy comes in there and he's banging these walls up in like 20 minutes. And I'm like, dude, he's like, I could have done this whole project in one day. I'm like, the guys that I hired to work with me on this, we've been working on for 2 weeks.
Wow.
He's like, yeah, this is a day project. And I'm like, again, I'm never doing it this way again. It's like, how hard does it need to hurt before I change, man?
Yeah, that's really it. Yeah, just till there's enough pain and you realize there's a better way. It's can be hard, but I'm pretty stubborn or dumb or whatever you want to call it. So usually I got to learn those lessons a few times try to make the shift, but I'm always happy once I do.
That's good, man. I like that.
Awesome, brother. So yeah, man, I love it, man. I've got a bunch of great takeaways. So going back to some of the creative deals you've done. So like, I know you said that like that one, for example, was 2 years. Are there certain things you're looking for when you're structuring these deals? Like you get that deal, what's your plan after the 2 years? Are you doing like a traditional refinance or what's your goal, I guess, when you get into a property, and how do you look at deals?
So the whole goal at the end of the day is to ideally it would be to BRRRR it, right? Where you pull all the invested capital back out and then you reuse it for the next project. The problem with that is as I started doing that with this project, because it's been so long, our rates, everything's changed so much. Like I don't know if you guys have stress tests down there. The stress test being like it's like a cash flow. I don't know, like it's a way for them to measure the cash flow. So it's not it's the debt ratio. It's we have they call it a stress test. So essentially your cash flow needs to be able to handle so many problems on top of that, right? So it's like, okay, if you're operating this property at $5,000 a month, you need to be bringing in $12,000 in income, right? That would give you what, 1.2% debt to income? I don't know. Anyways, but that has gone up through the roof. So now they're not doing their typical 30% or 70% loan to value. Now, because I had a property, that single unit commercial I was just talking about, I had all the numbers worked out. The appraisal came in where I needed it to be. Everything worked out for me to be able to pull out 100% of my invested capital, which was all the renovation costs in that building. And I would have been completely free and clear, debt paid, tenant pays the mortgage and all the bills, right? It was a triple net commercial lease over there. I would have been hands off, zero cash in. And I had the numbers worked out even at a safer bet where they were only going to do 70% loan to value, 65% loan to value instead of the 70%. And the bank came back to me and like, hey, everything's changing over here. We're not able to give you any more than 52% loan to value.
Wow.
And I was like, I got smoked on that because like I was planning on paying off all the debt that I used to renovate that building and I would have been flush again. And now I'm stuck with a personal loan. I got the line of credit, everything that I used to renovate that building is still sitting there now. So I have to refinance it into something else at some point. But that's what the rates changing. The game has changed so much. And this is my first time around the block, man. This is the first time I'm dealing with a recession. First time I'm seeing rate changes, rate hikes, and all these things, right? So I'm learning as I'm going through it, So this is my first time experiencing that. But in an ideal situation, going back to your question, it would be that I would be able to pull out all my invested capital, and then I would have the building cash flowing positive every month.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I mean, that's like a perfect world. I feel like everybody that invests wants both those things.
Right. Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense. Awesome, man. So do you guys have like, is there like a lot of like private money up there? Is there like a lot of private money lenders or hard money lenders?
Yeah, so we call them B lenders. The hard money lenders is like kind of like a B lender.
Mhm.
They're just like individual investors kind of thing, guys with cash that have, or there's companies down here that'll do it too. Mortgage companies that have access to insurance money and all sorts of stuff.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of people use the B lender financing for the renovations or
Mhm.
loans if they need. I have a buddy that he built this whole house using B lender funds. Uh, Damn expensive though. Holy smokes, man.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's why I want to be on the other side of that. That's actually what I'm working towards, is to get on the other side of that where I can start lending that capital. It's a different type of risk, but we definitely have it up here. I actually haven't had to use it yet. Like I've
Mhm.
had, because of my business, I've had like very large operating lines of credit. Um, and I found a bank. Actually, it wasn't one of the big banks. We have like, I know our banking restrictions up here are way different from what you guys deal
Mhm.
with down there, but I couldn't tell you anything about it. I just know that they're different.
Yeah.
So like our credit unions are, I guess, like a step below the big banks. So they're a little bit more interested in working with people like me,
Mhm.
who is, again, quote unquote, high risk, because I'm a business owner. I'm just one individual. Like I'm incorporated, obviously, but they those the smaller banks are more interested in coming up with creative solutions and finding ways to actually work with me
Mhm.
over just the big banks who have rigid rules where they're like, this is the criteria. If you don't hit it, kick rocks.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't, people like me, we don't even have a shot at hitting some of those criteria. So it's like, what's the next level? Well, it's the credit unions. And then you can go down to B lending, where you're going to be
Mhm.
paying an arm and a leg. But with the business and all the equity that I have built up as a kind of like a blanket over my portfolio, they've been able to give line of credits, very creative with the funding, and they can look at my whole situation
Mhm.
instead of looking at finance column A and finance column B. It's like, okay, the whole thing. How do we look at that? And is there enough cash flow in all of this for you to cover the new debt, kind of thing?
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I get similar here. A lot of the credit unions will, yeah, be more flexible for sure. So awesome, man. Yeah, and is that because that's crazy, that 50%, almost 50% loan to value ratio. Is that like universal with all the banks there? Is that like in the lenders, or is it just like certain banks?
Well, so when COVID came around, like, I mean, I'm sure it's the same down there. Like, property value went through the damn roof, man.
Hmm.
So what I think changed is they stopped looking at the appraisal value and they started looking at it strictly from the income section. And this is what my banker's telling me specifically. I don't know if this is across the board, but with this
Hmm.
specific property, like I had a sweet rent. It was an increasing 5-year lease, triple net. It's perfect. It's a perfect lease. The cash flow is there, everything's there. And even the appraisal value is there. And they didn't have enough of that buffer, that stress test. That stress test is what bumped my loan to value down to 52%.
Mm.
So I wasn't able to pull my cash out.
Yeah, yeah, that's wild. But
So I
yeah.
don't know. I don't know if that across the board, but they
Hmm.
essentially went from looking at appraisal value to um, debt to income ratio. And I know this is always
Hmm.
something that is looked at, but it almost took priority over the appraisal value where
Yeah.
I'm at, anyways. Then it was like appraisal value. If you got your values, you're good to go. Cashed out, you're ready to rock. And then for some reason, when I did this building, it's like with the rate changes and everything that changing in the market, it was like income is most important. Which I get it, I understand it, but that stress test killed me on that.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, that's the reason I was asking about the hard money, or the B money, as you guys call it up there. Because yeah, they'll be usually down here, at least ones we've worked with, it's like they'll give you higher loan to value, but you do pay a bit more on the back end. But it's usually less to get into the deal. And if there's a big enough spread, it can be worth it, at least for some of the deals here. But
Very interesting, man. I've actually coming into the States and investing into the States is actually what we were talking about doing. Lisa and I, like, if I'm selling off this stuff, like that might be where we go start putting our money over there, over where you guys are at. Because that's like, we love coming to the States, man. Like every time we go traveling, we're in America. I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. So as far as like, so vice versa, I guess, of that, are there a lot of like US people that invest up in Canada? Do you guys have a lot of any competition from that, or do you guys, I guess, and then how competitive is it there? Do you guys deal, is there like a lot of wholesalers up there? Do you have like a lot of other investors you compete against?
I don't know really. Like I haven't, like I don't have people knocking at my door trying to sell me a wholesale deal, right? Like like I said too, like a lot of these deals, these guys, they fall on my lap. Like, neighbor walks up, Mike, do you want to buy my building? Like I haven't even been buying with a real estate agent. I've used a real estate agent 2 times out of the 9 deals I've done. Like these guys come up to me, offer me the building. So I haven't had that type of problem yet, I guess.
Right. That makes sense.
But from what I hear, it's usually the opposite, right? Like a lot of Canadians try and invest in the States because you guys have laws that are, and I mean, I'm sure this varies state to state because like Michigan's the closest state. Like I can see Detroit from the front of my shop. Like we're that close, 15 minutes from Detroit. A lot of people that I know here invest right across the border because the laws are different. And that's a blue state, I believe. I don't really know too much about the states, like blue state, red state. But I do know for sure that if we were investing in red states, it's like landlord friendly. That's what I've been told.
They are, yeah.
So like whatever happened, and it's crazy because that guy that I was telling you at the beginning of the conversation that cost me $13,000, if I would have just like muscled him out of that unit, like there would have been cops involved. I would have got fined I think the fine for doing that's like 25 grand for even just like starting that, and it starts at 25 grand.
Wow.
So like it's not even worth it, right? Like go muscle them out. It's like when a guy like that who actually knows the system as good as he does, that would have been the big.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, they know how to play the system. Yeah, definitely. Don't want to do anything out of bounds. That's crazy though, man. But yeah, definitely a lot of differences, man. But it seems like a lot of similarities too. But man, I appreciate you coming on, man. I've got a bunch of great takeaways, and I'm sure the audience has as well. What's the best way for people to connect with you online or on social media?
You can follow me on Instagram, Michael DiFazio, or Michael.DiFazio is my personal page. But my company page is michaeldifazio.reclaimartistry. That's where most of the shenanigans is happening. You check that out there. I mean, I'm on Facebook too if you want to get a hold of me. But that's about it.
Awesome. Well, yeah, definitely recommend following them if you guys are just listening. Again, it's DiFazio, DIFAZIO. But Michael, thank you so much again for coming on, man. We'll have to do this again soon, man.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me out. It was a great conversation.
Hey, this is Ky Logue. Thank you for listening to the podcast. I truly appreciate you. If you want more of this information and you want to see these actually recorded live, go ahead, join our Facebook group. It's the Real Estate Wholesaling Syndicate. It's right on Facebook. Google it, you'll find it. Type it on Facebook, you'll find it. I look forward to seeing you guys in there. We give a ton of free information in there, a bunch of free trainings, free courses. You get all the scripts, contracts, everything you need, A to Z, absolutely free. And I look forward to seeing you on the group.